Those were the words that echoed in Emma Carter's mind every night before sleep clawed at her tired eyes. But peace wouldn't come easy, not since the day her world was flipped like a photograph set on fire. The sky had looked normal that morning. It was one of those crisp fall days in Colorado, where the air feels fresh, the trees wear a crown of gold and amber, and the world seems to whisper promises. Emma sipped her morning coffee, her hand curled around the warm ceramic mug with a floral print her mother had gifted her. She sat on her front porch, legs pulled under her as her cat curled up at her feet. Her inbox was full, but so was her heart. She felt grounded, proud of the life she'd built after years of struggle. Until that moment, everything seemed in place. But betrayal never knocks. It shatters. It began with a message. Just a few words. A text from her best friend, Natalie Green. "Did you really say all that about me to the board? I trusted you." Emma stared at the screen, confused. Her heart skipped. Her thumb hovered, frozen. She hadn't spoken to the board at all, not about Natalie, not about anyone. What was this even about? Before she could reply, another ping. Then another. Then an email. A flood of accusations, people she'd known for years questioning her loyalty, her character, her honesty. They said she was the one who leaked confidential files. They said she threw her best friend under the bus to climb higher. They said she confessed, even signed a statement. Emma didn't sign anything. She didn't betray anyone. But they already believed she had. They said I was betrayed. But what no one realized is that betrayal can be reversed. To understand what happened next, you need to know the kind of woman Emma Carter was. She wasn't loud. She wasn't dramatic. She believed in integrity more than applause. For 10 years, she worked her way up the ladder at Whitestone Design Company, one of Denver's top architecture firms. She was respected, even liked. But respect is a fragile thing, easily broken by whispers. And this time, the whispers weren't just cruel. They were calculated. The accusation? That Emma had taken files from a joint project with Natalie and passed them to the competitors. She was accused of manipulating numbers in the final report and reporting Natalie to HR in an anonymous email. The firm took it seriously. Too seriously. She was asked to step away while they investigated. "I didn't do this," she said, eyes full of fire as she stood in that glass conference room surrounded by executives with tight lips and judgment in their eyes. "But someone has the files. And the report came from your terminal. You can understand why this looks bad," they replied, calm, like they were discussing the weather. No lawyer. No courtesy. Just exile. When Emma walked out of that building, her badge taken, her reputation crumbling, she didn't cry. Not right away. But that night, when she sat in the silence of her apartment, surrounded by old awards, design sketches, and memories, she let herself feel the weight of the moment. The betrayal wasn't just from strangers. It was Natalie, her best friend. The same woman who used to crash on Emma's couch after bad dates, who helped her through the grief of her father's passing. The woman who now wouldn't return a single call. How do you survive something like that? How do you explain to the world that the monster they see in you doesn't exist? But Emma wasn't built to collapse. The next day, she pulled out the notebook her father gave her before he died. A leather journal with one phrase etched on the inside cover. "When they bury you in lies, dig out the truth with your bare hands." Emma did just that. She didn't run. She didn't disappear. She began watching. Emails. IP logs. Printer records. Swipe entries. She remembered things no one else paid attention to. The coffee Natalie spilled near her desk 2 weeks ago, the day she asked for Emma's login to test something quickly. And then, she remembered the intern. Jake Miller. Young. Eager. Always hanging around Natalie. Always asking too many questions. Emma had once caught him taking photos of sketches when he thought no one was watching. She brushed it off. Thought it was just enthusiasm. Now it looked different. Days turned into weeks. And the more Emma pieced together the puzzle, the clearer the picture became. This wasn't just betrayal. This was sabotage. A setup. A calculated plan to remove her and leave Natalie with the lead on the firm's biggest project to date, the Hartman Complex, a $45 million downtown redesign. And it was working. Emma had been erased. Natalie was shining. But lies have a shelf life. Before betrayal wrapped around Emma Carter's life like smoke, she was the kind of woman who didn't like to take shortcuts. Not in work, not in relationships, not even when life tried to push her toward the easy way out. She was 34, a senior architectural designer with a portfolio full of brilliance and a heart full of loyalty. Born and raised in Boulder, Colorado, Emma grew up in a quiet household nestled at the foot of the Flatirons. Her mother, a schoolteacher, and her father, a civil engineer, built their life around hard work, kindness, and quiet strength. They weren't flashy. They didn't chase attention. But they taught her something stronger than ambition. They taught her values. She remembered her father often saying, "Blueprints don't lie. People do. That's why buildings outlive the ones who build them." Emma had taken that to heart. After earning her degree from the University of Colorado, she landed a small job with a construction drafting company. While her classmates chased glamorous internships in big cities, Emma stayed back and did the real grunt work, sketching revisions by hand, visiting construction sites in steel-toe boots, learning how things actually worked. It didn't pay much, but it gave her grit. By 29, she had climbed her way to Whitestone Design Company, one of the top firms in Denver. Her colleagues saw her as quiet, organized, often deep in her own head. She wasn't the loudest in meetings, but when she spoke, people listened. That's when Natalie Green entered her life. Natalie was the opposite of Emma. Blonde, magnetic, always dressed like she was attending a fashion conference instead of a layout meeting. She had a laugh that turned heads and a charm that could soften any hard conversation. Where Emma was logic, Natalie was light. Together, they made the perfect balance. Or so it seemed. They met during a collaboration on a city project and hit it off almost instantly. Natalie had transferred from Chicago after a messy breakup and was looking for a fresh start. Emma, always a little reserved, found Natalie's energy a surprising comfort. She liked having someone who could talk her into happy hour or push her to buy a dress that wasn't black or gray. For the first time in a long time, Emma let someone in. They became inseparable. Friday dinners, Sunday hikes, inside jokes that carried into the office. Natalie often said, "You're the anchor I never knew I needed." Emma believed it. Maybe too much. But now, as she sat in her apartment looking at photos of them laughing in Aspen, drinking wine in Santa Fe, it all felt poisoned. Every memory seemed touched by manipulation. Was any of it real? Was she blind or just loyal? Then there was Jake Miller, the intern who orbited around Natalie like a moth to a flame. He was 23, fresh out of Stanford, and always had a question or a suggestion or praise for Natalie's every move. At first, Emma thought it was innocent. Admiration. Maybe even a little crush. But she started noticing odd things. Jake lingering around her desk when she wasn't there, printing things from the shared drive that weren't his responsibility. One afternoon, about 3 weeks before everything fell apart, Emma had walked into the printer room and found Jake looking unusually startled. He quickly crumpled a paper and stuffed it into his jacket. She asked what it was. He mumbled something about a mistake and left. It didn't occur to her at the time. Now it echoed in her mind like a scream. Emma wasn't someone who made enemies. She didn't play politics. That was never her style. She trusted people, sometimes too easily. She believed in hard work and fairness. But the world she found herself in now was the opposite. People didn't want fairness. They wanted favor. They didn't care about truth, just perception. Her father had passed away 5 years ago, but his voice still lived in her. When people push you into the dirt, stand up so slowly it scares them. Let them wonder how you survived. And that's exactly what Emma was doing. She wasn't going to just clear her name. She was going to uncover why they wanted her gone. Because now it wasn't about just betrayal. It was about intent. And nothing was going to stop her from digging to the bottom. She began organizing her research, building a timeline like the project she used to lead. Every file, every email, every odd interaction between Jake and Natalie, she documented everything. Her best friend Leah, a cybersecurity analyst in Seattle, offered to help. Leah was the only one who hadn't abandoned her when the rumors exploded. "Whatever they're hiding, we'll find it," Leah said. "You trusted the wrong people.
But now?
We fight smart." Leah helped Emma recover a few deleted files, remote access logs, and file modification timestamps that didn't add up. The final proof wasn't there yet, but the cracks were showing. Meanwhile, Natalie had gone silent. No texts. No calls. Her social media now glittered with award ceremonies and press features. She was being called the next visionary woman in architecture. Emma watched from the shadows of her own apartment, from the headlines she used to dream about. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't imagine, was that Emma had something Natalie didn't. Proof was coming. And when it did, everything would unravel. The first real clue came in the form of a timestamp. Late one night, while Emma sat cross-legged on her living room rug, surrounded by sticky notes, printed emails, and a half-eaten burrito, Leah called her on Zoom. "Got something?" Leah said, eyes glowing behind thick glasses. "Remote access from your account logged at 2:12 a.m. on October 17th. Emma blinked. "I was asleep." "Exactly. And guess where it logged in from?" Emma's heart picked up speed. A guest Wi-Fi IP address registered to the Hyatt Regency, downtown Denver. Emma had never stayed at the Hyatt.
But Natalie had.
There were Instagram stories to prove it. Emma remembered seeing a boomerang clip of Natalie twirling a glass of wine in front of her suite window that very weekend. At the time, she'd thought nothing of it. Now it was the thread that could unravel everything. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was evidence. Someone had accessed Emma's computer profile remotely using stolen credentials, likely while she was still logged into the firm's cloud system. They had then downloaded project blueprints and altered a report, submitting it under Emma's name through her account. It was premeditated. It was personal. And Emma knew why. Natalie had always talked about needing recognition, about feeling invisible despite her charm. She hated being second. Emma had tried to cheer her up, shared credit on reports, even stepped back to let Natalie present at a major pitch to the Hartman Foundation. But it had never been enough. And now, Natalie had taken the spotlight and set Emma on fire to get there. Emma had enough circumstantial evidence to raise questions, but not enough to clear her name entirely. She needed a smoking gun. A few days later, she found it. Leah cracked a hidden folder on Emma's old work laptop, which Emma had miraculously backed up before it was confiscated. In that hidden folder, disguised inside what looked like a cache folder, were 2 draft emails addressed from Jake Miller to Natalie. One of them read, "Are you sure this will work? She's been your friend for years. I don't want this to come back on us." The response was cold, chilling. "She won't fight back. She's too moral. She'll fade out.
We'll shine.
Trust me." Emma's hands shook as she read those words. Every smile, every shared joke, every fake "I love you, girl" from Natalie. It all curdled into disgust. Emma knew what she had to do. She printed everything, labeled it meticulously, cross-referenced every IP, every email. She prepared a digital timeline of the attack, everything that showed she'd been framed. But she didn't just want her job back. She wanted accountability. So, she went not to the firm's HR, she went to the legal team directly. She demanded a private arbitration meeting with the managing partners, presenting them with the full report. At first, they looked skeptical, cold. But as the evidence unraveled in front of their eyes, silence fell over the boardroom. Finally, one partner leaned forward and asked, "Do you realize what this means? These actions, if proven, could lead to criminal charges." Emma didn't blink.
"Yes.
And I expect them to be filed." What followed was a chaotic unraveling. Jake was called in for questioning first. He cracked in less than 24 hours. Panicked, young, not prepared for the legal firestorm, he confessed in full how Natalie had orchestrated the entire plan, how she'd used Emma's kindness against her, even coaching Jake on how to access systems without being traced. And when Natalie was summoned, she denied everything. But the emails, the location logs, Jake's confession, and even financial records showing a sudden cash transfer into Jake's account 2 days after Emma's suspension, it was all too damning. Words spread like wildfire through the firm. Whispers of Natalie's fall from grace buzzed through every hallway. Her awards were revoked. Her promotion rescinded. The Hartman Foundation pulled their partnership with the firm. Emma didn't celebrate. Not yet. Because even though the truth was out, the damage still lingered. Her reputation, her relationships, her peace of mind. These weren't things you could restore overnight. But the tension wasn't over. 2 weeks after the arbitration hearing, Emma received a letter. It was unsigned, handwritten, delivered in a plain envelope with no return address. You should have walked away. You have no idea who she was really working with. You think this is over? It's not. Emma's blood ran cold. Was there someone else? Was Natalie just a pawn in something bigger? Or was this just the final desperate act of a woman who had lost everything? The uncertainty returned like a thundercloud. And yet, Emma felt different now. She wasn't the same woman who walked out of that firm broken. She had stood in the fire and come out sharper. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about resilience, justice, reclaiming the narrative. And no shadowy letter, no veiled threat, was going to stop her. The air outside Emma's apartment felt heavier the next morning, as if the city itself knew what was coming. Emma stood by her window, coffee in hand, staring at the streets below. For the first time in weeks, her thoughts were clear. The betrayal had cut deep, but something deeper had awakened, a quiet strength she never thought she'd need to summon. The unsigned letter had disturbed her, yes, but it hadn't shaken her resolve. Instead, it ignited it. She made a phone call. Detective Mason Rourke, a longtime friend of Leah's older brother, had worked in Denver's white-collar crime unit for over a decade. Emma explained everything. Every document, every motive, every manipulation. She showed him the anonymous letter. He listened without interrupting. Then he looked up and said, "We've been watching Natalie Green. Not officially, but we've had reports. If she's tied to something bigger, we'll find it. You've done more than enough to push this forward." It was confirmation of what Emma had begun to suspect. Natalie wasn't acting alone. 2 days later, Emma was called to the police station for a formal statement. While there, she was shown a photograph, grainy, taken from CCTV, but the face was unmistakable. Dominic Lyle, a name Emma only vaguely knew. A high-powered investor with deep pockets and deeper secrets. He'd once donated heavily to the Whitestone Foundation's Women in Design initiative. Natalie had introduced him at a gala last year. Said he was an angel investor with a heart of gold.
But now?
Detective Rourke explained it clearly. He's under investigation for laundering money through architectural firms by propping up designers, manipulating contracts, and burying changes in project blueprints, just like the one Natalie tried to pin on you. Emma's jaw clenched. Her name was nearly destroyed not just for ambition, but for a far bigger scheme she hadn't seen coming. It was time to go public. Emma met with Jennifer Dole, a local journalist who covered city corruption and high-profile betrayals. Leah helped arrange it. Jennifer reviewed Emma's documents, emails, call logs, and even the anonymous letter. Then she asked, "Are you sure you want this out there? Once it's published, there's no taking it back." Emma stared at the printed draft. It was titled, "Framed by a Friend, Emma Carter's Battle for the Truth." She nodded slowly. "They stole enough. My silence won't be one of those things." The article dropped like a bomb. Within 24 hours, the firm's name trended across platforms. Natalie's name trended with it, but for all the wrong reasons. Clients backed out. Board members resigned. A full criminal investigation was announced. And Dominic Lyle, well, he disappeared. But Emma had one last thing to do. She showed up at the firm's annual general meeting. Not as an employee, not even as a guest, but as the woman they underestimated. Every partner turned as she entered the room. Natalie wasn't there. Her name had been stripped from every door, every plaque, every project. Emma stepped up during the open comment section, took the mic.
She didn't yell. She didn't cry.
She simply said, "You tried to erase me. You didn't just try to take my career. You tried to rewrite my character. But the truth outlasts lies. And I'm still standing." The room fell silent. Then one of the interns, started clapping. Then another. And another. Until the room echoed with the very thing they once denied her: respect. But victory never erases scars. Emma still had nights when she flinched at shadows. Still sometimes hesitated before opening emails from unknown senders. Healing didn't come in applause. It came in slow, steady breaths. She returned to work a few weeks later, not at Whitestone, but as a founding partner in her own design collective. Blueprint Reclaimed. A small, integrity-first firm built by women who had been dismissed, overlooked, underestimated. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about rebuilding, redefining, rising. One day, while reviewing a project proposal, Emma got a call from Leah. "Hey, you're going to want to see this." She texted over a photo. Natalie, in handcuffs, being escorted into a courtroom. Her trial had begun. And Emma? She didn't feel angry or vindicated. She felt free, because in the end, betrayal didn't break her. It built her. Every lie revealed her truth. Every fall made her rise. And every shadow led her back to her own light. It's strange, isn't it? How the people who swear they'd never hurt you can become the ones who twist the knife so deeply, you forget what it feels like to breathe without pain. Emma Carter never imagined that the most profound transformation of her life would begin with betrayal. She thought she had it all mapped out: the perfect job, the close friends, the steady climb toward her dreams. But the universe had a different blueprint for her. One that involved fire. One that required her to rise. And that's exactly what she did. You see, betrayal isn't always the end of your story. Sometimes it's the beginning, the catalyst, the wake-up call, the storm that clears out the lies and leaves only the truth behind. Emma was meant to fall, but not to stay broken. She was meant to stand again, taller,
Smarter. Sharper.
because while Natalie used betrayal to gain power, Emma used pain to discover her purpose. You may be reading this right now, wondering if your own hurt, your own scars, your own betrayals will ever stop echoing through your chest. Maybe someone lied to you, used you, made you feel invisible when all you ever did was love them honestly. And you wonder, was it all for nothing? Let Emma's story answer that for you.
No.
Every act of betrayal exposed someone else's character, but every act of courage revealed her own. When Emma walks into her new office each morning, she carries no bitterness, only wisdom. When she signs a new contract with clients who value integrity over illusion, she does it knowing she fought for that seat at the table, not by playing dirty, but by standing clean. And when she mentors young women fresh out of design school, she doesn't tell them to watch their backs. She tells them to know their worth. Because once you truly know who you are, no lie, no rumor, no scheme, no betrayal can take that away. Maybe you're at your lowest right now. Maybe you feel like everyone's moved on, and you're still stuck, frozen in place, reeling from what they did. But listen carefully. This is not your ending. This is your rising. This is your becoming. This is your moment to pause, gather your strength, and rewrite everything they tried to destroy. Let their betrayal be the fire that forges your steel. Emma didn't need revenge. She needed truth. She needed peace. And most of all, she needed herself, the version of her that didn't shrink, didn't break, didn't apologize for existing. She found that version. And so can you. So here's the final question for you, dear listener. When everything falls apart, will you let it bury you? Or will you let it build you? The choice isn't theirs anymore. It's yours. Choose your strength. Choose your truth. Choose to rise. Just like Emma did.